Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Procrastinators Pit Stop. I am sitting here with another amazing guest for you today. We have Jenna Evola with us. Jenna is the founder of Evolve Systems, and she leverages her expertise from working with major brands like General Motors and Monster Energy to help businesses achieve scalable growth by integrating human talent with automation and AI driven solutions. Jenna, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Well, thanks for being here. We have a lot of interesting ground to cover. I'm sure our audience knows that I really like digging into this subject, so I'm sure we can find a lot of interesting ground to cover. Before we do like to have an icebreaker on the show, and the question for you today is, which cartoon character do you resonate with the most, and why?
So my quick answer to that is Winnie the Pooh. I know it's going to sound kind of silly, but I do have a dog named Tigger, not a cat, a dog. He's a 120-pound Staffordshire Terrier. He's bright orange and he bounces all around like the real Winnie the Pooh or like the real Tigger. And so I say that he is my Tigger to the Winnie the Pooh that I kind of see myself as. He's exuberant and excited all the time, and always making friends, and super outgoing. And I'm a little more reserved and loyal, and so I kind of see myself living out a silly version of Winnie the Pooh with my big dog by my side.
I like that, Winnie the Pooh, and
Yeah.
I think it's the first time nope, that's not I misspoke. I did have an acquaintance that named their huge 101-pound Dalmatian. They named it Disney, so I like it.
There you go. Yeah. Not Eeyore. No Eeyores in this character book, but
Alrighty. So just sliding into things a little easier here, Jenna. How would you define procrastination, and what does it mean to you personally?
so procrastination for me is not doing the things that don't resonate with you because maybe you're a little bit burned out in other areas. I think procrastination can rear its ugly head at different times of your life, of your career. Depending on what's going on, you might find yourself procrastinating on things that you didn't procrastinate on before, and that might be due to the fact that you're burned out in other areas, or you don't realize that the thing that you're procrastinating on it because you don't actually feel like you can do it. You don't feel like at the end of the day like you have the means to actually complete the task, but you don't want to face that fact. And so, as an entrepreneur, you really have to hit procrastination head on because there's no time or excuse oftentimes to procrastinate. You just have to do it. You have to figure out how to drag yourself to do the things that you don't want to do. But procrastination still exists, very much so. And it can cause a lot of pain, I think, for people as well, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you have to get it done.
Thank you for that definition. It's I like it. I like it. When we're talking procrastination, we all know that there's no real silver bullet or 100% cures all for everybody. But what's been your secret sauce to overcoming procrastination?
My real secret sauce has been, first of all, identifying the things that I have to do on a day to day basis that take up time, and looking at those things, which things that take up my time give me energy, and which things that take up my time feel like they just do nothing but suck my energy. For me, it's doing things like accounting. I don't like to do that kind of thing. And so if I can identify that that is something that takes away my energy, and it is something that maybe I can find somebody else to delegate that task to, that is my first battle, or way to win the battle against procrastination, I guess, is identifying, why don't I want to do this task? And is it something that I can give to somebody else without losing anything?
Interesting. I like how you added that to the end. I think you hit on something that causes a lot of procrastination too when it comes to delegating in general. You said drains me and maybe I could give to somebody else or something else that would do, what I guess how you worded it was what needs to be done or how it needs to be done. So how do you give up that control? Because, we all like to, not all of us, but we often have this little inkling in the back of our head. Hey, no one's going to do it as well as I can. I mean, this is my baby. So how do we go about doing
Well, it's very difficult to first of all change the mindset. I think it's first of all identifying that I can't do everything. If I do keep doing everything, other things suffer. I will burn out. I will get sick. Things will be it won't be a choice for me. So I get to make the choice right now while I have the bandwidth. And I don't know, for me, I had to hit a rock bottom of sorts to give up the control. I literally did have to get sick and I did have to say, I'm quitting. Literally, I'm quitting. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't work the 80 hours a week. And I had to make the choice of, do I want to give up some control or do I want to quit and fail? So I think for sometimes people have to hit that rock bottom and make the choice to give up some control. And then the second step is really finding somebody. Found myself in a position where I didn't really have the choice to give up control and delegate because I was getting sick and I was needing to like quit or delegate. Like there was no choice. The choice was being made for me because I actually couldn't show up and do the work myself anymore for that little period of time. And so, finding people that you trust to actually delegate to is the next really big hard step to get through, and that was a challenge as well, but I actually found that recruiting some help for just administrative tasks out of the Philippines was the best thing that I found. It was something that I could both afford and find the right skilled staff and the right attitude, I guess, to help me with what I needed help with. And so I built that trust, starting with one person. Was able to get back to health, was able to get back into business, and um, ended up growing a team of 8 after that. All out of the Philippines, all because I figured out how helpful it was to delegate tasks as the entrepreneur, to delegate tasks that suck my energy away, that don't actually move the needle in my business, to delegate those tasks to somebody else that it does give energy to. And I have found those people. And it just creates a better balance for everybody involved, but especially for me. So, I can say now I have the energy to show up and be the business owner that I wanted to be. I was disappointing myself left and right because I was putting too much on my own plate and then not getting anything done correctly, and that's not a great place to sit at the end of the day for your mental health or your physical health.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I mean, you're absolutely right, and it sounds like that you have a really good system set, and actually, that's what you're doing right now. Now, are we seeing a shift from more like I'll call them contractors, freelancers? Are we seeing a shift now where we're moving more towards AI systems like ChatGPT, OpenAI, Sonora, these sorts of tools, rather than freelancers now, or is it still a pretty even mix?
I think it's still a good mix, and in fact, having your freelancers use AI on your behalf is something that I'm seeing a lot of. In fact, my whole team is trained to use AI to do their jobs more efficiently and better. So anything that doesn't take away the humanness in what they do, but just saves time and efficiency. We're writing a blog and we need to make sure that all of the keywords that we want in the blog are represented and that they're comma separated and that they're put into a format that we need to actually produce and upload the blog. You know, things that save 2 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 3 minutes there. Those are the things that I'm seeing both my remote staff use on my behalf, as well as I'm using and teaching other business owners to use on their own behalf, again, to reduce burnout, increase efficiency, and hopefully save more time and energy for the things that actually do require your humanness.
No, I like that, and I like the fact that you've got that sort of augment and not replace mentality. Do you think there's anywhere as a business owner? I mean, we procrastinate a lot of things. You said there's accounting, there's social, there's ads, there's inventory accounting, maybe sometimes. Is there any, I guess, area where you'd recommend that you don't try to automate or delegate it?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that when it comes to I take a lot of meetings. I have a service-based business, and so, and especially service-based, other service-based businesses, doctors, for example. That's my best example because I work with a lot of clinics and I have a medical clinic. And I think that is one of the first places where I think augmenting and using AI to assist, but definitely not replacing the humanness of the job is very important. Because we are going to have AI doctors very soon. We're going to have AI making decision on your behalf, or on a doctor's behalf, completely without a doctor even involved, without a human involved at all. And that, to me, that's very dangerous. I think that's getting into the dark side of AI. And that's why I want service providers, knowledge-based workers, doctors, lawyers, to continue to learn how to use AI in this fast-paced world to get the things done that don't require the attention of the patient that is right in front of them, so that when the patient is right in front of them, they can show up and be a total human, doing what only a human can do, showing compassion, listening, you know, being there for that person. And AI can't really do that and shouldn't really do that. Although I do see people using ChatGPT as their counselor these days, and that's all good and well, but but we still need humans, and we especially need the humans that are providing care to us to be here in our faces, like when they're in our presence, not an AI, assisted by AI, yes, but not. That's where I see the most need is the knowledge workers, that we need their humanness to show up at the job.
No, I get that, and I like your example of the doctors and the medical profession because, well, it's interesting, right? Because if we let those kind of cases be dictated only by AI, I mean, we might not even perform 20 to 30% of the surgeries that we perform simply because, and again, what criteria you're going to use. If you have somebody that actually, my brother just went in for an emergency surgery because the disc was compressing a nerve in his neck, right? So, I mean, if you look at that and you get AI to look at that and it says, oh, well, there's only a 33% probability that, he'll regain mobility, the hospital at that point may or may not decide to do that surgery then, right? So it gets to an interesting thing, and you actually have the processes in place to try and gauge that. But at least to my knowledge right now, nobody's really thinking on that. They're not thinking that granular, right?
Yeah, the private practice doctors are. There's a lot of fear that, we were talking off camera earlier about how, many jobs are going to be replaced by AI, and there's a lot of fear around that. There's definitely a lot of fear around that in the health industry as well. But I think that the doctors that are working for inside of the system, they are going to be able to adopt faster and earlier because they're already working within those systems that have the money, that have the infrastructure, that are already implementing the AI. It's the independence that I worry about. It's the entrepreneurs, the private practice owners, those doctors that don't have those big hospital resources. They're not big part of that big system. I'm afraid that they are going to be a thing of the past with the way things are changing with AI. And it's because of access. I don't think that they have the same access level that those that are part of the system do.
No, I can understand that as being I can understand that as being a fear, for sure. I think that right now we have the reason there's so much fear right now is that we're going to approach a time when part of technology is not keeping up with another part, and then we're not able to keep up with it. I think that's the main thing. Because what you just described to me right now, it's a cause for concern because they don't have access to those resources we said. But now you can get, I don't know what you call them. Apologies, my mind just went blank. But there's the Aura ring. There's this little machine that goes on the back of your arm. If you're a diabetic, you can check your
Continuous glucose
blood level.
monitor, yeah.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
And right on your cell phone. So I imagine that by the time, I don't know, I think we're approaching singularity in what, 5 years now?
Hmm.
Maybe we have enough time to have technology catch up a bit, but um, No, I mean, yeah, Australia had one too. They're having lawyers now that are trying traffic ticket cases and things using AI. So it's definitely amazing. Let me ask you, what do you think is the most amazing use of AI that you've seen entrepreneurs use so far?
It sounds like a simple thing, but every small business, whether they want to or not, they have to market themselves. And marketing has gotten a lot cheaper and faster with automation and AI coming into the fold, especially when it comes to video editing. That right there, I used to spend hours and hours cleaning up, videos just to get them over to an editor and then be charged thousands and thousands of dollars just, for like one promo video. So like the manpower, the time, the expense of just like getting a simple promo video for your business made in the last, 6 years since I've been in business, it's worlds different. I used to have to pay, like $5,000 to produce the type of video that I can produce for a couple hundred in about 10 minutes at this point. It's a pretty wild change to watch. And so I would say, just producing media, high quality media for a lower cost as a small business, like that's been pretty amazing. And it's allowed us to do a whole lot more that we didn't have the manpower or the budget, honestly, to do what we can do for cheap and easy now. Now, of course, you do have to worry about quality. And so there's a whole separate discussion that we can have about that. And that's why I keep hammering home the idea of using AI to be an extension, not a replacement. You don't want to be producing poor quality, fake looking things now that we have AI at our fingertips. So there's a balance that we need to strike. But boy, can we get a whole lot more done with less manpower and less expense when it comes to producing media these days.
No, I mean you're absolutely right about that. And actually that's a question that actually I wonder how you feel about that. Do you think, and I've seen this article, I've seen this argument go both ways. Do you think that it really matters where content comes from as long as it serves its purpose now?
In a lot of cases, no. I mean, it really depends. It really depends if you are an influencer and your spoken word is your art. I wouldn't recommend starting to use AI to generate all of your videos and turn yourself into a bot. But if you're if you're a doctor or a lawyer and you're just trying to like update your potential patient or client base about a new service that you're providing, or a little fun factoid or something that's educational, do you really need to like spend the human time on that, especially if it's going to be something that is going to be a 2-3 minute piece that is meant to get a certain piece of information out, make people click on a button, make people maybe schedule an appointment with you. So it really depends on like the purpose of the content that you're generating, I think, to answer that question. But in a lot of cases, especially for these service-based businesses, no, it really doesn't matter. You just got to get the job done. You just got to get the information out there. That's the most important. It's like a lot of times these small businesses are making the choice between post anything at all or post something that maybe is not as high of quality as you'd want it to be if you could spend a little more time on it. I would lean post something versus post nothing at all.
And how important is it, do you think, to use these AI tools in well, obviously, you think it's very important, but I mean, how can we drive home how important it is to use these kinds of tools for entrepreneurs?
Think I don't think we need to drive it home because it is in people's faces. And I think more what we need to what we is what in what ways can I be implementing AI right now that will give me the max amount of benefit for the least cost and the lowest learning curve? Because AI is kind of it's here. Your competition is using it, and so if that's a motivation at all, it is kind of a do or die scenario where, look, if you fall asleep at the wheel and you decide to be a purist and you decide not to use any AI, uh, be it in your social media marketing or what have you, well, your competition is, and you're going to start looking around, going, well, why are they doing so much more than me Why does it seem like they have a bigger budget than me? Why does it seem like they're taking the business that I feel like I should be getting? Well, it is probably because they're using AI in the background, and that does make it dire. I think when people start playing the comparison game and they start going, well, hold on, I feel like I'm falling behind. Hold on, it's not just in my head. It is because your competition is using AI. So I think the first question is, okay, how can you, entrepreneur, use AI in your business most efficiently? Because you can drown, and there's so many tools out there. There's so many places that you could start, but I like to work backwards and say, okay, where am I inefficient? And is there an AI tool for that?
I like that. I like that. And just to go back to our earlier conversation a little bit, you said that authenticity is pretty important. Being authentic is pretty important. And then we have I don't know how to approach this because it's something that is going to be happening more and more as we get into more augmented reality and things like that. I don't call it catfishing, but I have heard other people call it catfishing, where a company, I won't name names or anything, but they put out AI generated ads without real actors and without real products. So is that still maintaining authenticity? I mean, I'm going back and thinking about the '90s commercials with like the Pepsi Jet and 100 million Pepsi points, you get a Pepsi Jet, like all these other commercials, and yet people are saying that these AI commercials are even less authentic and they're kind of more damaging to your brand than they are to be good for it. What's your take on
Yeah, I think inauthentic, poorly used AI media can do the opposite. I think it can really harm your reputation, and I think you have to be very careful. I have seen some of those ads that you're talking about that are completely it's a completely AI generated ad without a real product, without a real person, and they look terrible. You can tell they're AI generated. And me as a consumer, I've seen those and I've said, I would specifically never buy your product because I can see how fake this is. And therefore, I question everything about this brand. If this ad is this fake, then I don't trust your product or your service at the end of the day. So I think that your media cannot look AI generated. You need to be using AI in the background to help you set things up, to help you make things look prettier. But the basis still needs to be real. The product needs to be real. The person in the commercial ideally needs to be real and not, AI generated. Although I have seen it done well. Maybe if it's like a retail product, like a fly by night retail product, that that might be a case where like maybe that would pass some people. So yeah, so I really do think that you do have to be careful about quality, but at the end of the day, using AI to produce media, to produce commercials, it can be a good thing, but you definitely have to. I mean, people can spot a fake, and you have to worry about what that says about your brand. If it looks fake, it might be making it so that your brand looks untrustworthy.
it? And do you ever worry that by using AI, I'm going to pick on LinkedIn because LinkedIn has made me upset a few times in the last few weeks, but I'm going to pick on LinkedIn just because it's the most obvious there. It looks like everybody's using the same sort of cookie cutter format and everything else. So do you worry that we're writing more to the algorithm than we're trying to actually write to people?
I do, actually. I think we're going to see an interesting era where people who are real, who actually have something real to share and say, if they can keep producing content from their authentic place, they will rise to the top. Like the cream will rise to the top, because people are already sick of this like algorithmic cookie cutter. I know exactly what you're talking about on LinkedIn, like the cookie cutter advice. It's all formatted the same, like you can tell AI helped write it. And I think that people are going to get sick of that really quickly. So I think right now we're in an era where people aren't quite sick of it yet, and people are, making money and seeming to get to insane popularity with very low effort. But I actually think there's going to be a swing in the opposite direction pretty soon here because people are getting sick of that. And so they're going to be looking for the realness. So those who can still be real and be using AI in the background just to help tee them up, I think those are the people that are going to be the most successful in the long run.
And I'm curious because you help businesses set up these systems. I'm guessing you've helped set up some content systems in the past as well. Is it and I haven't tried this myself, so that's why I asked. Is it true that if you take, say, 100 or 200 of pieces of content that you wrote and you specifically put it into ChatGPT and you tell it to write in your voice, how accurate is that? How accurate have you
If
seen it?
you train a GPT, if you really train it, you can get it to be actually kind of scary accurate. And this is where, are we being creative? Are we resting on AI too much? I think that if you are still sharing the information that your audience needs to hear in a way that educates them, in a way that makes an impact on them, at the end of the day, if AI helped you generate it, it can still be authentic, if that makes sense. You have to be very careful. Like, I don't ever take anything that ChatGPT wrote for me and just copy paste it into a post of any sort. I use it as a framework. I use it as like, okay, this helped make sure that the pieces are there, but then I still go and rewrite it. But that's just me. There are people who have trained their GPTs well enough to, literally they feel comfortable copying and pasting whatever it is that ChatGPT wrote for them. And I think again, it does come down to who's your audience, what are you talking about, are you selling a product, are you an influencer, are you just trying to connect with your audience in an authentic way about a certain thing, are you trying to get them to buy something? It works better in different scenarios. So but as an entrepreneur, oftentimes you are educating your audience about the same thing over and over again, just in a slightly different way so that they don't get bored. And so if AI can help you do that portion of things, I think it's a real help, because otherwise it's very easy to get burned out yourself as the generator of that content. It's actually very easy to get burned out on saying the same thing over and over again. You feel like your audience doesn't want to hear it, but they actually do. And so AI can help you say the same thing 50 different ways, I guess, if you need to do that.
And but do you think that we're ever? I mean, I've seen the new picture generator out of ChatGPT now, and it's gotten a lot better for sure. Do you think that we're ever going to see a time when we're trying to make ChatGPT more human, so that we're going to wind up just coding out the um, the benefits of the AI, and we're just going to program all the human flaws back into it? We're just going to be back at square one, as if we were working with people anyway.
My gosh, I think that's totally possible. Actually, I've never really thought about it that way, but yes, actually I do think that's possible.
The only reason I say that is because I've done a lot of, well, playing around, wasting time, whatever you want to call it, with different websites and different apps. I've tried some of those coaching apps and therapy apps, and yes, I've toyed with the Flirt You app or whatever the heck the name is, and it's really interesting because some of the GPTs, because like character AI, I think is totally based off of ChatGPT, but um, it's responding in such a way that it's almost human.
Uh-huh.
And what was interesting to me is that in the scenario, I had to talk to it and I had to coach it to actually be like. So in this case, the application purpose was to train therapists and coaches.
Okay.
So it was interesting. But then I thought to myself, well, wait a second. So in order to be a good therapist or coach or facilitator, you have to have empathy, you have to have this. So if you program that in, then we're going to have something akin to randomness in online casinos, wherein I did not know this until recently, where it is impossible to program randomness. So whenever you're at a casino and it's provably fair, it is simulated randomness.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Which that's what we're talking about when it comes to AI, I guess. That is kind of how the large language models function, if you think about it. Yeah.
And just speaking on that, I had another theory that I've got very loose circumstantial evidence for,
Okay.
but it's always be polite to your AI because you get different results. Have you seen that at all? Or am I crazy? I mean, I have one example I can give, but am I crazy?
I don't think you're crazy at all. In fact, I say please and thank you to my chat GPT every day. And I in fact, because I feel like I am training it to be how I want it to, I want the output to be friendly and compassionate toward me. So I feel like I need to train it and talk to it that way to get that output from it. But it's not a human. It's kind of funny that I'm treating it that way. But yes, I do. Um, I do think that it's important to be polite to your AI as you're especially as you're training it, because that it's going to give you that same output.
Well, the reason that I got to it, and by the way, ChatGPT denies this. So if you ask it, it says, "No, I don't reward users or punish users." And then you ask the actual creators, and like, "No, it's not designed to do that." But large language model, and this should scare anybody if it doesn't scare them, really, is that we trained it on the internet. So that goes from everything from Wikipedia to Facebook to X to Reddit to Chan. So
Yes.
it it's gonna know how to respond. So if you say, "Hey, give me," so my example was I was joking with a friend of mine. It's like, "Give me an iguana picture," and give it a sort of this unfocused sort of close up. The eyes looked a little different and stuff. But then when I said, "Can you generate me an iguana picture, please?" All of a sudden there was a sun in the background. It was a little more focused out. The iguana looked like it was smiling, and I said, "How is that the same output?"
What did it say back?
Didn't actually, to be honest, I didn't ask.
I would ask it. That's what I would do next because I'm what I in addition to being polite, one major hack that I find with ChatGPT especially is you tell it what it is and what its purpose is before you ask it for the output, right? So give me an iguana in the sunshine. That's one way to do it. Or you can say, hey, you are the greatest art designer that ever existed. And you love to make art of nature and you like to bring forward the feeling that like we're all connected on this planet. Like you tell it who it is, how it thinks, where it's coming from, and then you say, now give me the picture of the iguana in the sunset, and then see what it produces.
I think it's not only it, but it's also taking it based off of every other interaction I've had with it, basically.
Exactly. So it's of course going to go draw from, you know, what it thinks a whatever you just described it to be would be based on what it knows from the internet. You could also tell it like, hey, you're a heckler on 4chan, and come meet my request with that perspective, and you'll get a completely different output. Very interesting.
It is, and it almost makes it seem like social media in and of itself is going to be in trouble in the next little bit then, because if I'm getting other people to post for my social media, but I'm not consuming it, and you're not getting social media and you're consuming it, but we're all just posting our ads or our material up there. Well, who's reading it? Who's
Have you heard of dead internet theory?
that? Well, I rings somewhat a bell, but here, let us
You're
tell
basically
me.
describing it. It's the theory that you know some percentage, more than 80% of whatever we're consuming on the internet is not real, and not or sorry, the beings that we think are on the internet, like it's 80-90% bots already. So yeah, going into what you were just saying, yeah, I think that's already happening. There's already, it's already happening to where you go on Instagram and you DM somebody, or you get a DM from somebody and you don't know if that's a human or if that's their bot talking to you.
I mean, I've seen some. We had somebody on the show recently, actually, who their business is developing AI models, and if I hadn't gone through their photo frame by frame, like their real frame by frame, It would not be able to tell that it wasn't a real person.
And was it modeled after a real person in the business?
No.
No. Okay.
No. No, this one, it took them, yeah, it was an interesting guy. They do it mainly for like you said, fly by night e-commerce type ads with like the try on clothes and stuff like that, right? But I mean, it is getting good enough that at some point, I'll be sitting here. Will I be sitting here? Or will you be sitting there? It could just be we took 300 selfies of each other and then we put it into the model and then we're having this conversation and that's it.
Yeah, we're closer to that. We're actually pretty close to that.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of them actually on YouTube. There was a couple of completely AI generated podcasts, and it was a little bit, I don't know, weird.
It's definitely weird, and it makes you think, like, are people, are real humans going to consume this just as happily and as podcast of real people talking about real substance?
I mean, I think that the answer to that is on the what is it, the adoption scale, right? I mean, if we go back 20 years, phone tree systems were a pain in the butt. Nobody wanted to deal with them. I still don't like dealing with them. It's actually gotten to the point where that AI picks up the phone and I'm like, oh, thank God, I don't have to push 9, 10 times.
Yep.
So you see how that works though? Because
Yep.
before I didn't want the phone tree. I still didn't want the phone tree. I accepted the phone tree. Then I had the experience that I didn't need a phone tree for once. And now, so it'll be that fast.
It will. Yep. It will. Yeah. There's there's voice bots that will, answer calls for businesses already. Yeah. It's a strange world.
It is. And it also makes me wonder um, where we see actually everything going. Because if we're going to be on the really sort of borderline conservative side, we're going to be seeing 50% of pretty much all jobs gone within a decade.
Hmm.
If we're being, I think being more on the realistic side, we're going to see 98%. And that's soft skill.
Yes.
So I was joking with my daughter a little bit because she said, "Well, what she doesn't know what she's going to do, and she's not even in high school yet." I said, "I don't, because in 10 years when you graduate, everything you learn might be out the window anyway. Sorry, kid." Like the way that it's going is it's interesting, but and this goes for everything, right? So soft skills and everything like that. And I often joke where I might just go back and be a plumber because it's going to take robotics about 100 years to catch up with that.
You're making me think of a South Park episode that's pretty funny. I don't know if you've seen it, about AI, and it's actually about a year old, maybe a little bit older. People in the town come to the same conclusion that maybe they should be electricians and plumbers and everything after all, because AI has taken over the previously white collar, high paid doctor, lawyer jobs, and so what's left is, yes, go be a plumber, go be an electrician. Yeah. There are not going to be robots that replace those types of jobs, and so I do think that we're seeing, I think that, like, the traditional education, going to college, all of these things changing very rapidly. Not so sure that, that your daughter, for example, will need to go to college, or if that's even going to be a thing. Like, things are changing so quickly. I think that people who have a real skill, like plumber, electrician, like, they can do things with their hands, they can fix the physical things around us. I actually think those are going to be the people that thrive in this next era, unless you can figure out how to be a controller of robots. Unless, like, you're a lawyer and you figure out how to build your own bots that help you grow a AI legal practice. Like, you're going to need to own the bots that own the knowledge that do your job, or you need to be able to do a job that can't be done by a robot. Electrician, plumber, HVAC, that kind of thing.
I like that. It's definitely an interesting conversation, and I could go on for about it for another like 8 hours. Just diving into all sides of it. But we are coming up pretty close to the time. Is there anything that you wish I would have asked but didn't ask, or anything you feel we should have covered but didn't cover today, Jen?
Hmm. When it comes to procrastination, just going back to that, I know that it's something that I I still struggle with, even though I have people to delegate to. And AI is actually, just plain old chat GPT. It can be a tool if you struggle with procrastination that does not take away from the humanness if you use it right. Um, you know, I I like to use ChatGPT just as like a body double. This is a term that I learned when I realized I'm a little bit ADHD, and I really like to have someone or something just like there with me doing work by my side. I just get more done. And so if you're procrastinating and you're just like, I literally don't know how to get this task done or what to do next, sometimes I will literally just chat with ChatGPT and say, I'm stuck right here. What would you do? Well, give me a list of things. How can I get myself out of this? How can I complete this task? Why am I not completing this task? I will ask ChatGPT sometimes. I just really don't want to do this. Can you think of a reason that I'm like really resistant to doing this thing right now? And like literally sometimes ChatGPT talking to me will help me through it. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use AI. You don't need to have anything fancy to just like have it be helping you on the day to day in the simplest ways, even if it's just help me figure out my way out of completing this task that I don't want to complete.
I like that. That's such a powerful note and such a powerful piece of tip to kind of end the show on. Well, Jenna, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been a real pleasure. Just before we go, what's the best way that our listeners can reach out and learn more or get in touch?
I live on Instagram a lot, so you can DM me. I'm Jenna Evola, or my website is evolvesystems.ai. You can get more information about what I help business owners with there.
Well, thank you so much again for being on the show today, Jenna. And to all our listeners, thank you once again for tuning in. And just remember, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try and be that motivation or inspiration for someone else. And we'll see you again next time.
Thank you.